Hi guys, welcome to this presentation. Just to give you an idea, I've been away for the past week. I have been responding to queries, etc., but it appears that there's been more issues with the National and London Flu Vaccination Service. And there have been a lot of queries that I've been getting over the week, even though I've been away. But I've still been trying to respond to as many as I can. And the idea of today really is to go over some of the issues that have been coming out of the NHS. Just to give you an idea, there have been a lot of documents that have come out of the NHS, and generally our feeling at the moment is that it really hasn't been managed quite well by the NHS. There's just so much information coming out and so many differences coming out as well that it really has sort of like been incredibly difficult for both myself and for the remainder of the team here to try and keep on top of it all. We have been keeping in contact with the LPCs to make sure that if anything does come out that we're fully aware of it. And I think now we're probably at the stage whereby we can probably go over most of the stuff that you're going to need if you haven't already started the NHS or the London-based service. So I know a lot of you, the London-based one won't be relevant, but I will have to go over that as well because there's still a lot of confusion going on with that. Okay, so let me quickly go over. So if you look at this document, okay, this came out last week. It's the pharmacy provider briefing, okay, and in here it sort of like guides you through the process. And I'm going to go over each one with you in turn. And I think by doing this, it's going to be incredibly useful for you just to get an idea of what the national one is and what the London one is as well. Okay, so the first thing that you need to do, okay, which is step one, is to sign up. Okay, and this is how you sign up. So if you're going to be the National Advanced Flu Service, this is the link that you're going to need to click on. All right, and just basically, so I'm going to click on that. In case, for example, you what was I going to say? So, in case, for example, you need to do this. This is what you do. So you click on that link, and in there you'll be taken up to the pharmacy contractor page, whereby you literally just sign up and you go through the system that way. Okay, so that's the first thing you do. So I'm going to just close that down. Now, if you're going to be doing Sonar, okay, and if you're doing the London service, what you will need to do is you'll need to register using this link. And again, if you've done it in the past, if you used this in the past, then you should actually be able to register for it quite quickly. So you'll just need to complete that name and do that way. Okay, so that's basically what the London service is. So that's the difference between the two of them. So you'll need to click on that for the national one and click on this one here for the London one. And by the way, we'll be sending this document out as well on this video, so at least that way you'll know what's going on. Now, the vaccines that are included, okay, so if you're looking at the advanced national one, it's just literally just the influenza vaccine, okay, and that's by IM or deep subcutaneous route. If you're looking at the London one, you can do both, which is the PPV vaccine, all right, and we'll go into the conditions what you can use that in a minute, and also you can use the inactivated influenza both via IM or deep subcutaneous route as well. And that's basically what the document here says. Now, the important thing here is the declaration of competence. Now, I'll go into that in the next section of this video in a little bit more detail, but just to give you an idea, there are two declarations of competence that you're going to need. There's one for the advanced one, and there's another one for the London one, and I'll go over that with you in a little bit, in a little bit more detail in a second. So before you provide that service, you need to declare yourself competent, and I'll guide you through that in a little bit. Okay. Now, in terms of where the PGDs are, okay, the PGDs for the national one, okay, are loaded up onto Sonar. And what you need to do is each pharmacist must sign a copy and have it authorized with a signature from the manager or superintendent pharmacist. Now, with the London-based ones, okay, they're all again uploaded onto Sonar, and each pharmacist must again sign a copy of each PGDs they'll be working under. So you'll have a set of PGDs essentially for the national one, and you'll have a set of PGDs for the London one, all of which should be accessible through the Sonar system. All right. So make sure that's the fourth thing you do is you get your PGD signed off once you've obviously signed up and declared your competence. Now, again, the cohort of patients that you're going to be looking at are going to be slightly different. So, if you're how to describe it? So, if, for example, you are if your client falls in the national criteria, okay, you will be using the national PGD. If it doesn't fall in the national criteria, but it falls in the London criteria, then you'll be using the London PGD. Okay, if it falls into this sort of like category here. All right. Now, if it doesn't fall into either one of these, there's one or two scenarios. The first scenario is if you're not doing a private PGD, you are not going to be able to vaccinate them. If you are, on the other hand, able to do a private PGD, and we'll talk about that in a little bit later in another section, you will then be able to possibly look at the PGD for the private service and offer it to them if it falls within those criteria. So you've got one of three options. If you're going to be giving the national flu one, if they match these criteria for the national one, you'll be using this one here. If it doesn't meet the national criteria, but it does meet the London criteria, as long as you are providing the London service, you can use this. And if it doesn't fall in either, then you will then possibly be able to provide it on a private PGD. Okay, so hopefully that clarifies that. I'm not going to go into each one of what the risk groups are. You can have a look at the document yourself when you look at that. Now, recording forms. Now, in the National Flu Service, again, this is loaded onto to Sonar as well. There is you're going to need to fill in these forms as well. So you're going to need to fill in the national flu record and the consent form. You need to then give them the patient experience survey, and if necessary, the care home request form as well. Okay. We'll talk about what you do when you need to send off, how you send off these experience forms in a bit. Okay, but basically what it's saying here is that patient experience survey forms are required of all patients vaccinated and are submitted together each month. And basically a bit more information will be given when and how that's going to be sent off, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. In terms of the London Immunisation Service, you'll have the London PPE record form. That's the pneumococcal form. Okay, you'll have the London flu record form. You'll have the London Immunisation Service consent form. You'll have the London Patient Experience Service form, and if necessary, if you're going to be doing off-site, you'll have the off-site vaccination request form. Okay. Now, a record of these will be required to be uploaded onto the Sonar platform daily. Okay, and that's basically what this bit here is saying. Now, off-site vaccinations. Now, you may want to think about this. There's a little bit more information, so a lot more that you'll need to do in order to prepare for this, which we discussed last time in the previous videos. But it might be useful to go over this one here. Now, if you're doing the national service, you can do off-site only in long-stay residential care homes or other long-stay care facilities, and only after permission has been granted by the local area team. So bear that in mind, okay? Now, in order to do that, that's the reason why you've got this form here. You'll need the care home request form, okay, in order to do that. And that's the reason why you need that form there, okay? Now, if you're doing the London service, which is here, you can do the off-site forms, okay? So you can do the off-site, but you can do it also in special needs schools, okay? But again, you will need permission from the London immunisation team, and that's the email address where you can email them for permission, and you will also want to CC in your LPC as well. Okay, and in order to do that, you're going to need this form here, which is the London Off-Site Vaccination Request Form, which is what this form here is all about as well. Okay, so that's if you want to do the off-site vaccinations. Now, in terms of the payments, okay, now let me talk about the London service first, yeah? So because you're going to be loading up all onto Sonar for the London service, okay, Sonar will then produce the invoices for you, and payment will be made based upon that. So that's quite an easy one to do. Now, for the national service, I'll read it out for you. It says there is a template submission form. We will try and get this electronically generated each month for you via the Sonar, which you can check, print, and submit to the NHS BSA. If this is not allowed, then the data you need to fill will be produced by Sonar and made available on a summary sheet, which you can manually transfer onto the claim form required to be used. So, in other words, it's still a bit up in the air about this one. All claims for each service will automatically be allocated to the correct commissioner and processed, i.e. national cohort patients, blue groups, etc., etc. Payments will appear listed on the scheduled payments under advanced services, the same as MURs. Okay, so that's really what I wanted to talk to you about with this one here. So have a look at this again when you have a moment, but hopefully this sort of like clarifies some of the things. But for those of you who haven't set up already, make sure you do register on both of these. Make sure you do your declaration of competence, which is really what we're going to be talking about a little bit now about. Okay, so good luck with this so far, and we will go over this. We'll go over the rest of it in a bit. Okay guys, welcome again to this part 2. Now, what I would strongly suggest you also do, the CPPE are running a number of webinars as well for the Declaration of Competence and what that entails. I know a lot of the sessions are actually full up now, and I do believe that they're going to be sending out a video very shortly, a record of the a record of the webinar itself, probably in the next couple of days. So anyway, just to help you along, you should have been sent out this document as well, and if you haven't, I'm going to be attaching onto this email too. So this one here is something that the LPC sent out very recently, and this is a guide to the Declaration of Competence that all of you are going to need to do if you're going to be providing the service. And also, it's a very good idea to go over the declaration as well, because it could actually influence some of the other services that you may want to provide in the future as well, or could be commissioned in the future. So, for example, EHC, hormonal emergency hormonal contraception. Some commissioners may require a declaration of competence for that, and so forth. So it's a good idea just to go over that as well, and see what other sort of like services may need a declaration. But in a nutshell, what you will need to do is actually step by step in here. So first of all, what you need to do is visit obviously the CPP website, which is here. Okay, you just click on that and it will take you over to do it. Now, once you get on there, what will then happen is that you will be given a oops, sorry, there you go. You'll be sent to a page similar to this, and what you will then need to do is click on this bit here, contributing evidence to declaration of competence. Okay, and then once you click on that, you will click on this bit here, which is declaration of competence. Okay, and after you do that, you can see here, for example, there are a number of services here that may require which do require, I should say, a declaration to be made. So, for example, if you're going to be providing an emergency hormonal contraception, and if the commission has basically asked you to declare something, then that's what you want to click on. But the two which you're going to need to click on are these ones here. So you've got Vaccination Advanced, which is the national service, which is that one there. And then what you've got this one here, which is the London one, which is the not advanced flu service, okay, the immunisation one. Right. So once you do that, once, let's say for example, it says here you've clicked on this one here, okay. What you'll do is you'll be given something. You'll be sent something similar to this, okay. And what you then do is you literally then click on each step in turn. And what you've got here, step 1, for example, is something called recommended learning. Okay, it's not compulsory. Okay, but it's there to you can see what I've highlighted here. So you would see from the screenshot below, this learner has completed the assessments, these two. Okay, And sorry, where was I? Has completed the assessment on consultation skills but has not attended a workshop. This learning is not compulsory. It is listed here to help you reflect on what you have done and what you might wish to revisit. So you can see that here, for example. So this person's obviously completed the safeguarding, has completed the immunisation services, has completed the consultation skills, and completed the consultation skills for pharmacy practice, patient-centered approach. After you do that, okay, you click on step 2, which says supporting assessments, which is, where is it? Here we are. Now, again, okay, passing these assessments, once you clicked on that one, will provide you with evidence that you meet the competencies to provide the service. It is not compulsory to pass all these assessments, but you must check with the service level agreement specifies any particular assessments that you must pass. In London, pharmacists must have passed this one here. Okay, the immunisation in pharmacies part 1, which is this bit here. You must have passed that one there. Okay, so just bear that in mind. Then what you need to do is, after that, let's go back again. This step 3. You will then need to print off the declaration of competence. Okay, now this is where it starts getting a little bit funny. Okay. In order to declare yourself competent to any NH service, you must be able to provide evidence that you meet the core competencies of consultation skills and safeguarding. Okay, so in other words, when you print off part B, which is this one here, okay, you'll be asked a number of questions, and what you will then need to do is complete those questions. These are the core competencies. So how, for example, have you been working towards the consultation skills for pharmacy practice? There you go. Okay, because this person passed it. How do you meet the competencies for safeguarding children? Because they've passed the E-assessment. Those sort of things, yeah? And then what will happen is that you've got a number of service-specific competencies. All right. So, for example, you will need to provide evidence that you meet the specific competencies for the immunisation services. Okay, and there are a number of ones there as well. So, this particular one, for example, it says here, are you able to communicate the benefits of vaccination versus risks to the disease? Yes, because I've taken so-and-so training. And what you then need to do is save the document and print it off. Then what you do, let's go back again, you go into step 4, which is print your declaration. Okay, let's go back again. There we go. So go back to CPPE website, print your statement declaration, and you will need to tick all the boxes to make your declaration. At present, you will only need to print off and sign the declaration and then handwrite in the box to declare that other non-CPPE related training that you might have undertaken. So anyway, so here it is basically. So in other words, this is the sort of training that this person's done, and this is the declaration that they are providing. Okay. And finally, what you then need to do is you need to click update your CPPE record, okay, which is basically what step 5 here is. Let's see, there you go. Okay, update your CPPE learning record. Okay, and in order to do that, so you have to do that, otherwise your declaration will not be valid. Okay, and here it says is, please note you should backdate this if you signed the declaration of competence to last year to provide London Immunisation Service as well. And finally, what you then do is you just click I confirm and put the date it was signed. Now finally, what you need to do is you need to make sure that the CPPE viewer is enabled, and this is a requirement as well, especially for the London service level agreement. Okay, and you can do this. Well, basically, make sure you do this. Otherwise, they will not be able to see that you have actually been declared competent as well. Okay, so in order to do that, what you've got here is you click on My CPPE. You then click on Profile, and then you click on this to enable your CPP viewer and save changes. Now, finally, just to let you know about this, what you will then need to do is you will need to make sure you do if you're doing the London as well as the advanced, the national one, you will need to do this twice. Remember earlier on, let me just scroll back again. Remember that there was this one here, which is the London one, and you've got this one here, which is the national one. Okay, so you'll need to repeat all the steps again if you're providing both services. So essentially you'll have two declaration of competencies. Alright, so that is about as much as I really wanted to say about that. Let me see if I can find, hold on, let me just click on this. There we go. Now there is a number of webinars, if I remember correctly, that they are providing. So bear with me if I can find a little bit more about that. Sorry about that a little bit earlier. I had one of those moments, I think. Unfortunately, I couldn't find the web address, but I finally found it, and it was actually part of an email. That's the reason why I probably couldn't find it earlier on. This was actually sent out by the LPCs, and what you would want to do is you'd want to click on this link here, which is www.cppe.ac.uk/program listings/e-workshops. And if you click on that, okay, it will take you over to something like this, and it basically gives you an idea of the timings as well. So so for example, it's the 28th today. So if you wanted to, I mean, I know unfortunately these are all full up. As you can see, they're all full. So what has actually been mentioned, if you read on this bit here, it says, however, I've heard from the CPPE that the webinar is being recorded and will be available from the 30th of September to download. So so please have a look at that when you have a moment. My apologies again for making you wait earlier on. I just couldn't seem to find it. I think I had one of those moments. So if you do need to look at that, have a look at this web address here, and it should give you a little bit more information on that a little bit later. Okay. Okay guys, so this is the last part of it. So we've gone over quite a bit about the national and the London flu services, how you do the declaration of competence as well, and where to find the webinars. The last thing I wanted to mention about this was the private vaccination service. Now remember what we mentioned earlier, that if the service that you are providing for your flu service, that is, doesn't match the national criteria, nor if it doesn't match the London criteria, then you might have to go down the private route. Now, what we've done is we negotiated a special rate with Pharma Doctor, and if you want to go with them, then please email us, and what we'll do is we'll set you up on the system. But basically, in a nutshell, I'm not going to go into all the ins and outs of this, but basically what it is that what you'll then do is once we register you, you'll be sent an email similar to this, okay, where you can then just log in. Okay, so I'll click on that, and when you enter your password details onto the Pharma Doctor system, you will then be taken over to the package which contains the refresher course for the flu vaccination service, where you can then simply just do the questionnaires online and get registered for the service using the private capacity that so the private flu PGD that they're providing as well. Again, you don't have to go through Pharma Doctor, you can go through other people as well, but we've actually managed to get a reasonable rate from them. We're not making any money out of this as well as Pharma Plus, but we're using our power as a bulk buyer to give you a discount on this as well. So if that's something that interests you, please email us at Pharma Plus. It's I'll write it down here. It's info@pharmaplusltd.co.uk, and what we'll do is we'll send you a spreadsheet to get those people registered on to the private course if you so wish. So hopefully this is sort of like made life a little bit easier for you. I mean, it still is a little bit woolly in some areas, but I think that those two documents that we've just showed you should help to um, clarify some of the processes. So if you still do need a little bit more help from us, then feel free to contact us. We honestly don't mind, and what we can do is we can chase up some of the queries that you may raise with the NHS if we don't know the answers ourselves. But as I said, unfortunately the way the information has been released over the past few weeks has not been brilliant. It's led to a lot of confusion, not just from ourselves, but from all the pharmacies, including the LPCs. They've been incredibly confused as well. And hopefully the NHS can learn from this to next time round to make it a little bit more acceptable, not acceptable, but a little bit more easier for people to understand exactly what is required. So, so if you need us, give us a shout. You know our email address, and hopefully this should clarify quite a few things. But good luck, and I wish you all the best in this flu season. Take care now.